Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Listen, I hope this is a wonderful Hump Day Wednesday for you. You get to the end of the week. It's been a very eventful week. We haven't even gotten through it. We have so many things going on with Haiti, things going on with Afghanistan, things going on with masks, things going on with vaccines, things going on with school and education. We have so many things to do. Of course, the thing that's dominating the headlines right now is what's going on over in Afghanistan, which is important, and it shouldn't supersede what's going on in Haiti. But I thought today it would be a concept day, if you will. And when I say concept day, it's not for me to give you all of the particulars. I can give you all the particulars, but I can give you concepts around the particulars. And then, sometimes you can form your own opinion. I think it's really, really important these days that people really develop a rubric for how you think and how you verify information, if that makes sense. I think the other thing that's really, really important is just, being able to address some things. Currently, I'm on the road. Many of you guys know this, some of you don't. So if there's some issues with the Wi-Fi, forgive me in advance. But I was riding on the plane this morning, and it really hit me that American society, in particular, because we live here, has really advanced this notion, this concept of just a very apathetic stance towards things. Normally, when you go through a situation like we've been through with the pandemic up to, I want to say, March, where we had registered loss of life at over 600,000 people, there's a reckoning, or what they used to call a come to Jesus moment about life, society, who we are, who we serve, what we believe, who we are as a community. And what hit me eventually was just this underwhelming feeling that as a part of humanity, we're not really stepping into the fold. Now, a lot of people go, no, I'm doing my part. Yes, you're doing your part, but that's the problem. You've always done your part. The issue is, when do other people do their part? The dangerous aspect of apathy is that people will assume a position knowing that there's something to be had. When I say assume a position, it's like if we have a job where you bring you bring the water and I bring the cement, and I bring the cement powder. That's how we make cement. That's pretty straightforward. That's a relationship. But in an apathetic relationship, you bring the cement, I don't bring the water. But to make and lay the cement, you need water. So you say, whatever that person's going through, whatever, I'm going to go get this water. What you've done is in some regards, you've enabled an apathetic attitude. And the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of focus, the lack of care, it's kind of, I don't want to say that's where we are right now. Politically, I feel that way. I believe on the humanity side of the game, the community building side of the game, we've always been stellar in that regards. You've been stellar. And the community realizes that at some point in time, politicians, the government can't provide for some things, per se. That's why you have nonprofits. The theme or the concept of having a nonprofit is this entity is willing to do something that the government is not doing, or provide something the government is not providing. Therein, it becomes this issue of a topic today, which is masking up or selling out. Masking up or selling out. These are the coin of empathy and apathy, if that makes sense. And when I say empathy and apathy, you can not be attached to something, still you're not apathetic. But it's the wantingness to make sure, to be steadfast, to let everyone know whatever it is you're doing, I'm not going to be concerned. And when I say concern, these are issues where you should have concern. Child care, health care, things like that. These are issues where we should have concern. And I'm looking around the news. You can pick whatever headline you want to. There are a lot of aspects, brothers and sisters, where I want to talk about them in terms of, are we masking up or selling out? Now, I'm going to give you a different connotation of masking up and a different connotation of selling out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the show started. Thank you guys in advance. This is my on the road setup. Appreciate you, Sister Time, and thank you for working with me. Let's get the shout out show started on the road. Preacher Moss, let's go. And we're back. Hey, I want to give a shout out to anybody coming on the show for the first time. Simple rules. Share, subscribe, like, hit the notification button if you like to get more of the episodes. That's one thing. The other thing is, when you come to the shout out show, I want you to feel like you've been invited to an experience. You've been invited to a special community of people who basically they design the show. All I do is kind of come up with topics around vibes and flows and concepts that people have said to me or shared or said, even people's going, that'd be a good show. I've even done that a couple times where people say that'd be a good show. And alhamdulillah, I'm like, that is a great show. Part of, I want to say community TV, not regular TV, commercial TV, part of community TV is that there's a certain aspect of sweat equity that everybody brings to the show. Okay. When you do commercial television, you're dealing with unions and stuff like that. When you do like public access TV, okay, that means that you don't have people with paid positions, right? You have volunteers, but they're not volunteers in a way that, it's an internship or something like that, or they receive some credit down the road. And so this apparatus that we do for the shout out show is really beneficial and unique in a lot of regards because people bring their thoughts to a show. They sit, they listen, some they laugh, they agree, sometimes they don't agree. And I'm good with that. I really don't have a problem or issue with that. The other part of it is being able to celebrate people. People come in, someone asks me, why do you do the shout out show and you give everybody a shout out? I said, well, you know what? It's important to be acknowledged. It's important to be acknowledged. There's a great story. A friend of mine used to tell, Dobie Maxwell. And he talks about meeting a famous pro basketball player. And the basketball player was shooting baskets and the ball rolled off on a rebound and he was holding it and he saw his favorite player and he was just awestruck. And the player took the ball and he signed it and he asked him how he was doing in school. And, the idea of acknowledgement is something that's a bit of a lost art for him, because acknowledgement for some people is idol worship. I don't know. I want you to idolize me. Really, it's a very, very delicate balance of just asking people how they are and asking them why they're in that space. So our topic today is masking up or selling out. Now I'm going to throw this out to the shout out show family, shout out show soldiers. I'm going to introduce them now. Let's get them up on the screen. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Sister Reed. Sister Reed, thank you so much for joining the show. Number one. Number two, we're still celebrating your victory with Soulful Creations. We hope that you have an even bigger weekend this weekend at Soulful Creations, brothers and sisters. I don't have the information in front of me. It's something Greens Road, 239 Greens Road, International Market, Houston, Texas. That's all I can remember. Okay. But Sister Reed, thank you so much for coming on because, it's really important to see people have growth and ideas. And as business people, as creators, as entrepreneurs, it was really, really a good space for you to share your story. So we appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my main man. What's going on, Altaf Rashid? Good to see you on the show, brother. As always, we appreciate you. I jokingly refer to Altaf as a Canadian ambassador to the show. And this is why I do it, because it's not enough to acknowledge people. Sometimes you have to give them a title. Very big into titles. If you guys ever want to go into business and you want to retain employees, give them a title because you ain't gonna give them a raise. All right, next up. Well, we got Mama Son, better known as Mary Moss. She says, "Howdy, SOS family, Mom. Thank you so much for tuning into the show." A lot of times, you guys don't understand some of these topics we have they've fallen out of conversations that my mother and I have, conversations, arguments, debates, things like that. And I also I encourage you, if you still have your parents around, every once in a while, engage them in debate. Gets your blood going. Not that they're going to yell at you, but the idea of having a conversation where you're early on choosing a side, and the parameters of choosing a side is not that you're right or wrong. It's just your ability to put on your case, if you will. All right. Thanks for joining the show. Next up, we got my little brother, who I'll be seeing very soon. What's going on, JT? Better known as Johnny L. Thomas. Wa'alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good to see you on the show. And shout out to my nephews, Justin Jordan and Ray. I hope everybody's doing all right. Sister Law, Yolanda, and Aunt Mamie, and Miss Maisie. God bless, and as well as the Thomas sisters. So let's go ahead and get this in. Okay, and I want to give, of course, a shout out to Sister Satana working the back. She always makes sure that I give her that shout out. That's our consultant producer, brothers and sisters, doing good things, doing great things. Good meeting today earlier, Sister Satana. I appreciate the way you handled that because I was tired. So let's talk about masking up. And when I talk about masking up, brothers and sisters, I want you to look at the relative periods of masking. When COVID first hit, there was a run on masks. It was a multi-billion-dollar business. Hear what I'm saying? A billion-dollar business. You had owners of football teams sending out their personal planes to China to go get masks and other PPE equipment. I myself was on the internet, Amazon, ordering masks, da-da-da-da. And you know what it was about the mask back then, brothers? This is just that there was a sense of urgency. And that sense of urgency was tied together by the fact that we really didn't know what COVID was. Now, truth be told, we really don't know what COVID is now. We know the symptoms of COVID, but we don't really understand where it came from. It doesn't have a narrative that everybody's fully engaged in. We know the repercussions of COVID. We know the repercussions of having pre-existing conditions when you get COVID. I was saying this earlier to JT, COVID, in a lot of people's minds, it's substituted for the fact that, people die of other things other than COVID-19. Cancer didn't go away. Diabetes didn't go away. High blood pressure didn't go away. Obesity didn't go away. It didn't go away. But it's this idea that we were fascinated by this thing that we didn't know about. Now, you may say, what about diabetes? Why we shouldn't be worried about this? We know about diabetes and we have treatments for those. Now, here's the deal. Not only do you have treatments for those, but we have interventions. There are things you can do on the way to not getting diabetes or bringing your blood pressure down or dealing with heart disease. There are things that you can do. The immediacy of COVID made people choose. Here's where it gets dangerous. If you choose good health, that's a great choice. If you think about it, the other choice is pretty lame. Good health, bad health. I'm gonna choose good health every time. But it became politicized. And it's just hit me lately. And I could be totally off with this. It hit me lately that, there were levels being pulled to make sure that COVID was going to get politicized. Of course, you had the hints dropped, the China flu and things like that. Well, they're blatant. But somewhere in a space of masking out, brothers and sisters, there were a group of people who took masking out to a whole nother level. I say masking up, they took it a whole nother level. When I say took it a whole nother level, it means that they broke off from the reality and the truth of what it was. In life and creation, for they say for every good thing there's a bad thing, which is true. But you can take something that's fundamentally good and you can find bad, you can make bad choices with it. Let's just be honest, with human beings. You can find something that's fundamentally good, and in the hands of human beings, they'll find something that's fundamentally bad. And this is where we are today. That people have found things that are good and fundamentally made them bad. Just thinking the whole idea of liberty and democracy. I kind of get nauseous when I think about all the civics classes and American government classes that I went through and all the history that I went through about the United States and our idea of equality. And it was already suspect, because you grow up with racism. This is before they came up with critical race theory, but you grow up with racism and you feel these feelings. But in the end, in the bottom, you still feel like, despite what everyone else is trying to do with democracy, you feel like at some point in time, you make it work for you. And what happened, the gatekeepers who kind of were there to make sure it worked for you, they stopped working. Mask is a fundamental strategy. You can talk about right, and it's a fundamental strategy. And what happens when you take a fundamental strategy and make it unfundamental? You make it unsound. You make it unstable. We were talking yesterday about the dangers of playing God, right? One of the things that I've learned, and you can actually, you probably make your own assessment, it is the hard fought efforts these days to undermine people's confidence. To undermine people's confidence. Not just their confidence, I want to say that the sense of justice, the sense of pride. They even make you question the reality around you. I think the term they use now is gaslighting. So we have a gaslighting society that will tell you that what you're seeing is not what you're seeing. And the thing that happens if you get 3 or 4 or 5 people in a space, and in that space, they lack somebody with a clear vision or just clarity, then that vision becomes absolute. And what happens is people start selling out. What is the truth? I remember masks, brothers and sisters, being a fundamental part of going to school for young kids. Now we have mandates whereby politicians are threatening to tell people who are in the school boards, superintendents, that you can't mandate masks. But I'm like, but you can't mandate good health. You can't mandate a cure. It seems basic and simple to me, probably basic and simple to you. I'm like, but you can't mandate COVID goes away. And in that absence, you create even more confusion, even more chaos, because they're dealing with people who are mentally weak. When I say mentally weak, I don't mean that to be in a condescending way. But you have to call it what it is. There are people, when pressure comes around, they fold like a good old lawn chair. And what's happened with the people that fold like a good old lawn chair is that they sell you out. Now, when you're talking about masking out, you have people that sell you out. I want to wear my mask. People sell you out. There's this footage of a school board meeting in Tennessee, and then one person who said we should be wearing masks. This person was absolutely dog walked. They went after this person, surrounded their car, and you say, where's this anger from? That anger comes from this veritable lack of balance when you sell out on something that's fundamental. And clearly, it is catching on. We're talking about Afghanistan. We're talking about Haiti. You know what we haven't talked about lately? We haven't talked about the insurrection. There's a whole class of people that were murdered as a result of police brutality. We don't talk about it. And when you mask up and you bring these things up, brothers and sisters, the things that really, really have substance and have, I want to say, urgency, all of a sudden they lose their urgency. You know, I'm still sitting around waiting for the court date for the people that killed Ahmaud Arbery. See how long ago that was? And yet, we're going to be bombarded by Afghanistan for the next, I don't know, 3, 4, I don't know, at least month and a half, 2 months. You know what I didn't see of all of the Taliban, brothers and sisters? Of all the Taliban they brought through? Mask. They didn't have on masks. How ironic is that? The people who have taken over the country in Afghanistan, they did it without masks. I'm starting to think maybe they just say, hey, I got COVID. I'm not going to wear a mask. And they chased everybody out of the country. The prime minister or the president of Afghanistan shows up in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. And I'm like, where is this going, brothers and sisters? So let me try and bring this back around a little bit. So we're going to change the definition of masking up. Let's give it a strategic imperative. Masking up is defining a position. Selling out is not running away from position. It's ignoring the position. It's absolutely ignoring the position. Meaning that the causal relationship between the two can never be on the same plane. Masking up has a lot of connotations. We're talking about, in public places, indoors, outdoors. I'm like, but can we think about this whole masking up? Is it the fact that we are at a certain point in time in our history, brothers and sisters, where the will of the people does not matter? Where the will of the people does not matter. And the people who ignore or who are apathetic towards the will of the people, they don't realize you're apathetic to your own feelings. You are working against your own best interest. And when we talk about masking up, selling out, the thing that went out of the window, if we're going to just put it in a nice big conceptual bow, the thing that went out of the window is people stopped caring about caring. People start examining the aspects of how you care, why you care, when you care. The value asset of worrying about another person is out of the window. Think about when COVID first hit. Yeah, I know my family, we didn't see each other for months. Just think of the mentality. We cared so much about our elderly. Grandmothers and grandfathers weren't around their grandchildren for months. And now I'm not talking about a week or two or a month. I'm talking about months. And the idea was, brothers and sisters, that culturally, philosophically, and spiritually, we did not want to do harm to them. While we love these people, we don't want to do harm. And now you flip it a year later, and there's a willingness and a wantingness to do harm. We're seeing it, brothers. This is for some reason we can't stop it. I'm reading reports of people that send their kids to school, no mask, knowing that the kids have been exposed to COVID. How does that happen? Kids are walking in school. I don't even know if they're even taking their temperature, brothers and sisters. But the will of the people all of a sudden has been usurped. When I say usurped, I mean things in life take a consensus, right? If an event happens, like in religious in the Islamic religious tradition, when we talk about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, when he said something or he made a statement, particularly about a religious issue, it was not just his word. There was a chain of transmission of people who were there who basically interpreted the same thing. We don't have that now. And so when I talk about this whole aspect of selling out, it means that there's not that body, that chain of transmission that checks anybody anymore. Yeah, I have to pause, brothers and sisters, because every once in a while you kind of get in a space where you're like, how did we get here? And I ask myself that question. It's like, how did we get here? Some of the people I thought were level headed, logical, even on their worst days, hell, they weren't dumb. And now I've been proven wrong. I've literally been proven wrong. And as Malcolm says, it might be a situation intellectually of chickens coming home to roost. But the scary part is we're losing time. You know, I love the quote. What is Satan's two biggest lies? Number one, you're better than someone else, and number two, you have more time. You're better than someone else, and you have more time. And my favorite one of my early ones from the OGs, when they talked about Satan or Shaitan, they said Shaitan promises you everything and gives you nothing. And that's about where I feel these days, that Shaitan continues, I guess I say in politics and popular culture, to promise you everything and give you nothing. We literally talking about, I look at a mask now as not just a mask that you put on your face, it's a costume. It's a costume. And people make value assessments not about your willingness to promote good health, protect yourself. It's a costume, brothers and sisters, that people place value assessments on in terms of who you are and what you believe. You know what? The Klan had masks too. The Klan had masks too. And it was a costume. It was a costume of fear. And now here we are in 2021, reverting back to some of the same things that we were doing in 2020. And we know better. You know the adage, if you know better, you can do better. We know better, but we're not doing better. And I know a lot of us going, I'm doing my part. Yeah, you're doing your part. But the people, again, we're bringing the water. But who's bringing the powder to make the cement? To the extent that even when we go look for the powder to make the cement, we can't even find it because they never got it there in the first place. All right, so let me wrap up on this. A, masking up, we're going to define as a strategic position. We're going to move it away from this whole idea that masking up means that it means protecting people. So, masking up these days, for a lot of folks, it's a decoration. Like when you go to a regimental ball, a costume ball, you wear a mask. It doesn't cover here, it covers here. And for lack of a better word, brothers, this is, we're all players in this play, in this scenario, if you will. We bring our emotions, we bring our intellect, we bring everything to the situation. And we plop it down on the table and we look at the people who really need to be affected and make a decision, and they don't care. Those people have sold out. But it's a different kind of selling out. Not only have they sold out on what they believe, they've sold you out on what you could tell them you believe. So there's no conversation. So in the end, brothers and sisters, think about it when you mask up. And think about selling out. Think about the people who don't mask up. I'm not going to talk about the people who don't take the vaccine. That's your own thing, but there's a bigger metaphor about this whole mask thing. And I think it has so much to do about life and how we're going to be living for the next, I don't know, 15, 20 years. What our politics is going to look like, what racism in America is going to look like, what white supremacy in America is going to look like, gender issues, all these things, brothers and sisters, come from a fundamental shift in how and when we care. And if we still believe in caring. That's my show for today, brothers and sisters. I'm give it a shout out. Sister Ika, all the way from Indonesia. Let's make sure we make dua for Sister Ika and Sister Nancy, Sister Lorraine, Brother Kendrick, Miss Eleanor. Let's make sure we pray that those people have full recovery. Sister Ree, make sure you recover. Because this is a caring show. This is a caring show. What's going on, Sister Sophia? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for coming. Whenever you come, we appreciate you. We appreciate you too, Sister Ree. So, and like I said, I want to make sure that we get that out there. Thank yous. And that's our sponsor, Miss Maxine BK Esquire. If you want to find out more about financial advising, managing money, as they say, brothers and sisters, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And it's also about how you make your money work for you. One of the best quotes I heard was, I worked hard for the dollar. I'm trying to figure out how to make that dollar work hard for me. Let's give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. We also want to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, that's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. You can go to Bayan online if you're considering a quality graduate doctoral level education of Islamic leadership, Islamic studies, or the MDiv program, for which they have one for Muslim chaplains. You might want to jump in there, or if you're educated, you might want to check out their program about Islamic education. That's also a master's degree. So go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. Listen, brothers and sisters, that's our show for today. Now, I like to put some things out there, and this concept, if you will, this show, and I thank you guys for your patience, but this show is not meant for today. This show is meant for us to revisit in about 2 months. So we're going to come back in about 2 months, and we're going to see where the pieces fall in. And I'm trying to follow in the best traditions of some of my teachers and mentors. I don't give you the information for today. I give you the information for next year. That way you don't have to wait so long. Right? So thank you for engaging me in this practice. I appreciate everybody. God bless. Have an amazing Wednesday, whatever's left of it. I will see you tomorrow if it's Allah's will. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Preacher Moss, the ShOUT Show.